Hello, this is Johnny's Desk with me, Mamisi Nyamiche Thompson. Coming up, University Teachers Association of Ghana goes full steam ahead with its threats to shut down universities. Assistant President John Mahama's NAIMOS inspires little hope.
So if you wait and wait and wait for all the damage that is being caused to continue, and we all get poisoned, our food systems, our water bodies, and say we are still not there yet, when do we want to get there?
Also, Ghana Education Service insists schools in Binyiri will remain shut until calm is restored. These plus some business updates on our desk. Stay for details. And first, the University Teachers Association of Ghana says it will shut down universities, insisting that President John Mahama's recent remarks on illegal mining offer little reassurance. The association argues that the government's decision to withdraw police officers from anti-Galamsey operations and the refusal to declare a state of emergency demonstrates a lack of seriousness in addressing the Galamsey crisis. We'll hear from the UTAG President, Professor Akodugu Mamudu, in a bit. First, here's President Mahama on the issue.
We called off the IGP's anti-Galamsey task force because they are supposed to coordinate with NAIMOS, that is the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. Unfortunately, they were not doing that. So every little commander in any this thing gets up, Galamsey phobia, they can't tell who is licensed, they can't tell who is not licensed. And so it was just like an attack on the whole small-scale mining industry. And so what we said was they should freeze their action. They should synchronize it with the National Anti-Galamsey Operational Secretariat so that they can be directed exactly to where to go in terms of the anti-Galamsey fight. While we're fighting Galamsey, it doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all for everybody to get up. Anybody gets up, puts on a helmet, puts on a jacket, and says, I'm anti-Galamsey. They say, we're not looking for chaos. We're looking to do it, in a scientific manner. I've been reluctant to implement a state of emergency in the Galamsey fight because we've not exhausted the powers we even have without a state of emergency. We have the opportunity to arrest anybody, to confiscate any such thing. There are laws for forest protection and all that give us enough powers to be able to act. Implementing a state of emergency might sound nice, but it should be the last extreme, the last resort. So for now, let's exercise all the powers we have. And if it becomes necessary for a state of emergency, then we'll look at it. It means we have to go to Parliament. The president can't just declare a state of emergency without, going to Parliament because there's a limit to how long you can maintain that state of emergency. And so I believe that we still have leverage to continue to fight Galamsey without necessarily implementing a state of emergency. It means that we have to delineate the areas where the state of emergency is operational. And if you look at the area where Galamsey is taking place, it covers several districts of our country. And so we would do it if it becomes necessary. But for now, I think that we've given the security services enough powers to be able to deal with people who are found to be involved in Galamsey.
Well, let's hear now from UTAG's president, Professor Akodugu Mamudu, who is unsatisfied with the president's stance.
UTAG is having its biennial National Congress on the 30th of this month, and I'm sure a decision will be taken at Congress. Members themselves who have to decide by voting. And so timing is critical. Time is of essence. And so if you wait and wait and wait for all the damage that is being caused to continue, and we all get poisoned, our food systems, our water bodies, and say we are still not there yet, when do we want to get there? When we are all there,
Well, the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey is also pushing back against the president's claims that forest reserves have been secured from illegal miners. According to the coalition, several forest reserves remain under active attack, with rivers and ecosystems continuing to face destruction despite government assurances. Here's Daryl Bosu.
Now, if we hear him and what he's saying, we get a sense that he's not really appreciating the urgency where we find ourselves. And as far as we are concerned, Jamira Forest and some other forests, Amiral Fuji Forest, is still under siege. And so there's still a lot more to do. And the actions so far are not lasting enough for us to see the results that we really want to see. So for the president to downplay the urgency of the issue by saying that we are not there yet and we think that it is not time yet,
okay,
we still have to wait.
Well, one of the newest institutions in this fight is NAIMOS, the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. But what exactly is NAIMOS? Who do they work with? And how different is the mandate from the many anti-Galamsey operations we've seen before? This morning, we put these questions to Pakwesi Shanda, Media Relations Officer, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Pakwesi, grateful for your time on this. Now, for those hearing about NAIMOS for the first time, what exactly is their mandate?
Well, Mamisi, good morning to you and yours. It's a privilege to join this particular conversation. Your presentation of NAIMOS makes it look as though it is a recently outdoored outfit, but that is not actually the point. Indeed, NAIMOS has been operating since the start of this particular government. It represents the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, and it is that one umbrella unit that coordinates all anti-illegal mining operations across the country. By way of its membership, it sits principally at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, but there's representation from the Defense Ministry, the Interior Ministry. There's also representation from the National Security and the rest of the other relevant security agencies across board. So, in effect, it is that sole authorized body that leads all the operations is concerned. And so far, that particular outfit has been very remarkable in their outputs. They are working assiduously around the clock to stem the tide and deal decisively with the menace of illegal mining.
Well, for the many Ghanaians asking, how is NAIMOS different from earlier anti-Galamsey task forces that seem to have come and gone without really lasting results?
Well, so when you look at history, recent history where the fight against illegal mining is concerned, what you would immediately notice is a certain level of poor coordination, for the want of a better word, or a lack of integration of the relevant outfits that earlier had been deployed to fight the menace. So back then, we had, for example, Operation Vanguard. We had another, and all of those. They did not appear coordinated. The strategy now, being led by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and government as large, is now to bring all the units under one umbrella. And so that is the precise element of distinction. The fact that now we do not have, if you like, for the want of a better word, multiple outfits or multiple security outlets tackling the menace of illegal mining. Now everything has been centralized under NAIMOS. And so once NAIMOS is in operation, you should just then appreciate and understand that all the other relevant security agencies and stakeholders are also part and sitting around the table. So that is the distinction from the other operational outfits that we have had, in the sense that NAIMOS encompasses all other security agencies in a unified and harmonized manner.
Well, how do they then identify and shut down illegal mining sites when it comes to their operations?
So the operational routines of NAIMOS is essentially intelligence-led. That is to say that they do not embark on any random or overly excited ventures. That is to say, they don't just get up and then maybe they feel, okay, XYZ is happening then, and they swoop into action. Anything that NAIMOS does is inspired and informed by intelligence. And that is why consistently they've been working with the Blue Water Guards. So they build intelligence, they verify the intelligence, they receive it, they confirm, then they move into action. And that is why any endeavor that NAIMOS has embarked on has been remarkably successful, because at all times it is intelligence-led. And because it is intelligence-led, the margin of failure is often very low or almost impossible. And that is how come they are making the relevant inroads so far.
Well, Pakwesi, you know, on several occasions, illegal miners often return to the sites after the security forces leave, and it becomes an issue of operation today, Galamsey tomorrow, sort of. How is NAIMOS going to operate such that when they raid those areas of illegal miners, they do not return?
Indeed, this observation is very accurate, but we also have to, in that light, understand the complexity of the challenge that we are dealing with. When the illegal miners are flushed out of any specific location, they do not leave immediately. Or rather, let me say, they pretend to have left, or they flee this, they exit the scene. The next moment, they are back. And so that indeed is a challenge. But what NAIMOS has been doing, and what NAIMOS would continue to do, is that anytime they are done flashing a particular location, the new strategy is that they are redeploying troops to now keep uninterrupted 24-hour surveillance at all places where the flashouts have occurred, because it appears that the illegal miners have adopted a very rebellious and recalcitrant approach, in the sense that you flash them out, the next moment they come in again. And it's a very complex situation that we have at hand. But of course, the approach to address that complexity is now to ensure that after every flash out, what you now do is that you mount uninterrupted surveillance so that they do not come. As I speak to you, on the table, in terms of paperwork and strategy, there is a recalculation of the troops that NAIMOS has been working with. And so there is an increase in the number of the men that will be deployed to the ground because of the mild insurgents that is being recorded. Indeed, I had indicated earlier on this particular platform on a number of times that 9 forest reserves had been retrieved. As we speak, we understand that the illegal miners are now making incursions into some of the very forests that we had earlier repossessed. And so that is a condition of a mild reinsurgence. How do you prevent it, and how do you ensure that it doesn't even occur in the first place? Mount the 24-hour surveillance. NAIMOS has the men, the redeployment is ongoing, and we'll be able to deal with the situation where the illegal miners return after they have been flashed out.
Well, this 24-hour surveillance you talk about, how is it being operated? Is it that there are, drones, hovering through the areas, or there are men stationed there 24 hours to ensure that these miners don't return?
So drone technology is important, but where we have gotten to, looking at the practicality of the issue, in essence, men on the ground is the way we are going. So it is actual men that are being deployed to mount the kind of surveillance that I'm talking about. And like I indicated, that paperwork has been done. The men, even in fact, as I speak, of course, for security reasons, we cannot disclose their operational location at the moment, but the deployment has actually been done to ensure that those areas where the flashouts occur do not record a return or a resurgence of the armed illegal miners.
Well, you spoke earlier that NAIMOS is made up of different institutions. Well, they don't work in isolation. How then are they collaborating within these institutions, especially the police, the military, the Minerals Commission, also the EPA, I guess? How are they working together such that there's not an overlap between their work and that of the security services?
It is all a thing of dialogue, understanding, and strategy. So the truth of the matter is that all the other outfits, the constituent variables of NAIMOS, understand the memo. They know the objective at hand, and they know the mission on board. So far, there have not been any major conflicts, so to speak, because indeed all the other agencies understand the task and the mandate at hand. It is only at a point, like the president indicated when he met the press, that there was a little lack of coordination between the police task force and NAIMOS, and that is what subsequently led to the withdrawal of the police the police task force. But that is only a mild situation. Indeed, all other partners or other stakeholders and agencies that constitute NAIMOS, everybody is cooperating accordingly. And the cooperation so far has not been problematic. It is all meetings, engagements, dialogues, and then strategy deployments. No problems there whatsoever, except with the little issue with the police task force, which of course has now been duly rectified. And so NAIMOS is now cleared. It is working, and it is doing its best to deal decisively with the issue.
Well, who takes the lead in NAIMOS?
So NAIMOS, the operations of NAIMOS is led by a director of operations. I am not, for good reasons, perhaps unable to disclose his identity, but there is the director of operations who is assisted by a deputy director of operations, and then the hierarchy continues in that order. But NAIMOS principally reports to the sector minister, the Honorable Emmanuel Ama Kofi-Boa. He actually chairs the entirety of NAIMOS. But of course, like I've earlier indicated, it is not only the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources that is involved. We have the Interior Ministry, we have the Defense Ministry, we have the Ministry of Local Government, we have the BNI. Indeed, there is the national security as well, and the Ghana Police Service is even involved. The Ghana Armed Forces, all the other security agencies are represented. Their reps, feature in meetings and discussions. But principally, it is the minister who leads. So NAIMOS effectively reports directly to the sector minister, and he gives the marching orders accordingly. Right.
So you say they've started work already, but another pressing issue is the repeal of the LI 2462. What's the status of that process?
Well, before the president engaged the media and stressed that the LI would be repealed, the minister had earlier communicated that indeed he had had a conversation with the Attorney General, who had indicated is no objection. So prior to now, the process had already begun, and thankfully the president affirmed that position, that indeed plans are afoot to repeal the LI. As we speak, the legal framework, that process is being exhausted. Then it will come before Parliament, but we can say that between the minister, the Attorney General, and Cabinet, the agreement has already been held. There is a fundamental consensus, and so once the consensus has been reached, it's only a matter of exhausting the remaining parliamentary protocols, and then the law will be out of the way. But there is an attendant question that has arisen. It is to the fact, it is with respect to the fact that if LI 2462 is no longer in place, how is mining going to be regulated in the country? So mining prior to the coming of LI 2462 in November 2022, the EPA had its own, Environmental Protection Authority had its own body of regulations that was used to govern mining activities. We would only revert to that one to regulate mining activities for now, unless, of course, there is the need to submit a new LI, which is not being contemplated. But if there is the need to do that, of course, I'm sure it will be communicated accordingly. But once it is repealed, which will be very soon, the EPA's regulations is what will govern mining in the country.
So LI 2462, is it before Parliament?
The process has begun. I would give proper and clear communication on that. But the Speaker and the leadership of Parliament have been accordingly notified. But for the rest of that particular process, I would have to engage and communicate on that later. But basically, Parliament is notified, and so it will be done accordingly.
All right. Thank you so much, Pakwesi Shando, for that update. Well, also joining us is security analyst Richard Kumado. And, people are pushing the president to declare a state of emergency, which is in the Constitution in Article 31. Before I come to you, Dr. Kumado, let's take a look at this, and then I come to you with those questions about what really entails the state of emergency. Can we look at Article 31? Well, whilst we get ready with Article 31, Dr. Kumado, what really entails article or state of emergency, when the president, or if the president, should declare a state of emergency on ground, what happens?
Definitely. State of emergencies are measured procedures a president to put in place to help curtail a national disaster or in critical moments of distress, which also means that it comes with some level of discomfort, and it comes with some level of restrictive movement, and it comes with some level of adjustment within the area where the state of emergency has been declared. And to the extent that is backed by law, the president or the local authority who initiate the process will also be mindful of the law that excesses do not take place. And I can understand the hesitation in the voice of the president when he was speaking about the state of emergency because of the few things I have spoken about.
The few things you've spoken about, do paint a picture for us. So when this happens, does it mean I can't move from one place to the other? Do I miss out on certain things? What exactly happens for our viewers and us to understand exactly what goes into taking such a big step, declaring a state of emergency?
So let's take Okomlemle where you are. If they declare a state of emergency, and the key pointer for the state of emergency is that no car should move, it means that anybody entering into the Kokomemle eclipse will not have to come with a car or a motorbike. You have to walk. And as long as the law remains in place, or the procedure or the measure remains in place, to deal with the critical issue that triggered a state of emergency within the Kokomemle area, it means that everybody, women, children, irrespective of what your emergency situation is, you must have to obey, because disobedience also have ramifications and consequences. So that is a simple and a classic example of what you do when a state of emergency is declared.
So when a state of emergency is declared in these Galamsey areas, it means that activities grinds to a halt. Really, even if you're dying, you're sick, you can't go to the hospital. Is that what you mean?
No. So when you take a Galamsey area, let's say you take a 10-acre land where Galamsey is taking place. It depends on the key pointers. If the key pointer says that nobody should enter into that enclave, then it means that you don't have to enter into that enclave, meaning that you might not have to engage in farming activities, you don't have to engage in anything within that enclave, because that enclave has declared a security zone, and irrespective of what the intentions are, you will not get to enter to that particular enclave. So it says what the parameters are and what gets the state of emergency is. And since the one area of Galamsey are committed very hard, it means that declare the state of emergency, you have very close partners the parameters from other that.
Takumado, if you can reposition yourself well, I seem to be losing you, and you're making a very important point.
If it today, it is not. It means that nobody is to that side, and it is some high level discomfort. People fully die.
Right. So do you agree with the president not to declare a state of emergency now?
The president is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. He might have some information we may not have, but I seriously believe, personally, even when you're speaking to my brother, Pakwesi, there has been a whole level of miscommunication and information about this whole thing called Galamsey, and that's what is making a difference, and that's what increases the about things. We need to look again at what do we want, and how do we want, and what we want within. Take up quality. I think that's great. Yeah, it's a high levels of miscommunication and misinformation about this whole thing called Galamsey, and I believe that is one of the setbacks we are facing in the fight against Galamsey, or in an effort to curtail it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Commander, for those insights. Now, moving on, President John Mahama has assured Ghanaians that his government is pursuing corruption cases with diligence and fairness, insisting that no one will escape justice. Speaking at his maiden media encounter on Wednesday, he dismissed suggestions of inaction, he disclosed that hundreds of cases are already under review.
100 cases are under active investigation, with about 80 people interrogated so far. Several prosecutions have begun, progressing steadily and remaining firmly on course. In the Republic versus Edubwan and 3 others, the state has submitted witness statements together with all other documents, and trial has commenced. And the first of 3 prosecution witnesses have been called and have been cross-examined by counsel for the accused person. With the SkyTrain case, for instance, the prosecutors have secured a trial date, as all preliminary matters have been concluded and the trial is set to commence. For the National Service Authority case, due to its expansive nature, charges have been drafted and will be filed as soon as the legal year begins against the following person: the Republic versus Osei Sibe, the Republic versus Eric Nyaku, the Republic versus Gifty Owari. Also for the National Cathedral, we are awaiting a forensic audit from the Auditor General. Additionally, charges have been drafted and are ready for filing in the case of Republic versus Wuntumi and Akuntamaini. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, is finalizing its report with respect to Exim Bank transactions. Dockets are in preparation for the buffer stock case and the drip equipment case. Investigations are ongoing into the African Cup of Nations case, the Mart Set case, and approximately 20 other cases currently. Let me be clear, every single case of corruption that needs to be investigated is being looked into. And once evidence is found to ground the prosecution, that will happen and happen swiftly.
Well, Nana J. Bafwewa is joining me. He's MP for Mensah South and a member of Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. Nana J., thank you for joining us. Really, what do you make of what the President just said? Your reaction?
Good morning, my sister, and good morning to your cherished viewers.
Thank you.
It is obvious that the President... first and foremost, let me say this. I commend the President for his Meet the Press series. It's towards the deepening of our democracy. In fact, he is continuing with the tradition that has so far been established, particularly since President Kufuor assumed office in 2001. If you recall, President Kufuor used to engage the media and at some point even the general public in town hall meetings where people came to ask questions of concerning matters that bordered on national interest. And subsequently, when Prof. Mills also took office, he also continued. In fact, when President Mahama in his first term also did same. And Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo also continued. And President Mahama is carrying on. What this is that, among other things, it tells us that democracy is better, because it is only with democracy that you get the benefit of transparency and sometimes accountability. And so it is good, and I commend him for that. That said, in respect of the issues of corruption and the investigations thereof by the Attorney General, the President very respectfully only repeated the propaganda that has been served us all this while by the Attorney General. You know, the very day the Attorney General filed the nolle prosequi, I mentioned that because of that, he will lack the moral right to investigate and prosecute, in fact, others. And it's becoming obvious that all the things he's been saying and doing, they are nothing but a public relation gimmick that he has held all this while. And I'm going to give you, evidence to support it. The first press conference, which, for instance, was held by the Attorney General on these matters that they intended to prosecute, was on March 24th. March 24, 2025, where he briefed us about investigations and prosecutions that were going on, and specifically mentioned the case of Kwabena Duboahe, the SkyTrain matter, and also the National Service matter. From his subsequent press conferences, the second one being 30th of April 2025, the Attorney General consistently told us that the docket was ready, prosecution will start soon. When you are told that the docket is ready and prosecution will start soon, clearly, you cannot subsequently come and repeat the same things again. We want, if you are indeed serious about it, would have seen action. But clearly, all these matters of we are prosecuting former government officials have just been propaganda just to paint the past government, with a certain brush. And it supposedly feeds into the kind of picture they painted prior to the elections, which was that the Kufuor government was corrupt. And that is why Ghanaians will have to vote them out, because unless they are voted out, there will be nobody to hold them to account. It is when they are voted out that the new government can hold them to account. That was the narrative.
Are you saying that the AG is singling out people in your party? If these same people had, found to have, committed some form of corruption act, wouldn't they have faced justice anyway?
My sister, that is not what I said.
No, it's a question.
No, it's not suggestive. And let me be categorical. The point I made was that the moment the Attorney General filed the nolle prosequi against members of his party who were standing trial during the President Kufuor regime, it became clear to me that he didn't have any sincere will to fight corruption. That is the point I want to make categorically. And that point, we are constantly being vindicated in respect of that position. We are constantly being vindicated because, look, there is the principle that we are all equal before the law. And so if it is the case that you are concerned about corruption and you want to fight corruption, you should not discriminate in the fight. You should deal with everybody so long as they fall foul of the law. But since that matter, you observe that what the Attorney General and indeed the President have constantly sought to do is to continue with the narrative that members of the Kufuor government were corrupt. And for you to know that it is just propaganda and there is nothing to it, go back and check the Attorney General's press conferences. And that is why I was making reference to the date on which these press conferences were held. Oftentimes, the Attorney General will come and say that in a particular case, the docket is ready and that prosecution will start soon. Check his commentary on his statement on the National Service matter, for instance. You can check his press conference on the 30th of April 2025. You can check his press conference on 28th of July 2027. In fact, in his press conference on the 28th of July, he even told us when he was even going to file the charges, right? But the president has only come to tell us that the Attorney General is here to file these charges and that he's waiting for the legal vacation to be over. But the fact that there is legal vacation doesn't mean that the courts are not working. The courts are working. In fact, history will tell you that the Attorney General's complaint, the Attorney General's case against somebody like Mr. Collins Dowda, Godfrey Dame, when he was Attorney General, his case against Mr. Collins Dowda was filed during the legal vacation. And so what you see from the evidence is that they keep on shifting the post that we are going to do it. We are going to do it. And then they will come and then continue with the narrative that they are corrupt, they are being investigated. It is just a propaganda, right? Just to continue painting the members of the Akufo-Addo administration as being corrupt without any action to prove it.
All right.
Okay?
So this is what you're saying, that there's some form of unfairness played here. What will you say should be done to ensure fairness in what government or the Attorney General is doing?
I am not saying that there's some form of unfairness.
But if you say that it looks like this is targeted.
What I am saying is that the issue about prosecution of members of the Akufo-Addo, some members of the Akufo-Addo administration, if you follow the chronology of the Attorney General's press conferences, if you follow the president himself, some of the things he has said, what is evident is a clear propaganda PR machinery which the Attorney General is advancing.
Right.
And not a genuine and sincere effort towards the fight against corruption.
Okay.
And that is amplified by the filing of nolli prosequa by the Attorney General of members of his government. And so it should tell you that this government is not in to file corruption. Indeed, if you want us to even say that it is a matter of unfairness, if you even look at how the state and security agencies are dealing with members of our party, as opposed to members of even the NDC, you'll notice that this is a whole, machinery, right? Just to suppress and paint the opposition in a bad light. I'll give you an example. Look, for instance, how they've handled the arrest, detention, and bail of some elements of the opposition. Look at the offenses for which some of these people are being held, misdemeanors, very minor, insignificant offenses. Bills are even denied, okay? The president, for instance, was heard talking about hate speech and so on and so forth. Who in this country has indulged in more hate speech than Kevin Taylor?
So let me ask this. In the processes so far that the Attorney General has gone through to, with these cases, has any law been broken?
If you hold me and purport to grant me bail and inflict on me huge bail sums, which are unreasonable, which are unfair, clearly you are breaching your discretion under the Constitution. You are breaching your discretion, which is contrary to the Constitution, right? I'll make reference to the provision of the Constitution that borders on the exercise of discretion. That is Article 23 and 296. I'll make reference to it. But the point is clear that, one, this whole purported prosecution of the members of the former administration is not one which is being done in sincerity or is being done candidly. It is just a propaganda machinery just to tarnish the image of the Akufo-Addo administration.
Right. Lawyer, so in this regard, have you pointed this out to the AG, or has your committee raised concerns with this with the Attorney General? We will. You see, you have to be careful not to create the impression that you are against persons in your government being prosecuted or being investigated. You have to be very careful.
Otherwise, you are saying that they should be treated separately or given preferential treatment. That is not what we are saying. It is, you see, you observe whether this whole investigation and prosecution is being done in sincerity and comment on it, which is why we have been quiet. But I have observed a trend, and I've pointed out to you the press conferences of the Attorney General, where he will come out, make all sort of spurious allegations against specific persons, and go on to say, for instance, that the docket is ready and they are ready to prosecute, okay? And then subsequently, you see him shifting post. If you recall, the president during his State of the Nation's address even said that somebody had escaped from Ghana just to avoid prosecution, specifically Gifty Owari. Okay? Gifty gathered courage and returned to Ghana. And she's been in Ghana. She's now the vice president of the Ghana Football Association. The Attorney General will hold press conference and come and give you dates or period within which he intends to even file his case. But
so you're against him publicly, coming out with these cases. He should stop these press conferences.
If he has anything, he should go to court.
Right.
He has been using the media to pursue an agenda which is inconsistent with the principles of the office that he holds. So far, he held a press conference, said all sorts of things about Gifty Owari, said all sorts of things about Mr. Osesibi, said all sorts of things about certain named persons at the National Service Secretariat. Okay? And told the whole Ghana that their docket was ready and he was going to court the next moment. Okay? Subsequently, he came back to tell Ghanaians, right, give us more information, give another period when he will go to court. Today, we are being made to believe that the case is not even in court. Right. Recently, the Deputy Attorney General even said that it is not, it is not that simple to go to court. You must have evidence.
Right. Right.
And so the point we are making is that we have observed carefully and noticed that the Attorney General is just using his office for propaganda.
All right.
Just to tarnish the image of the members of the previous administration. And the president, based on the information the Attorney General is giving him, is also continuing with the propaganda, which is unfortunate. Right? If the president and the Attorney General are sincere about the fight against corruption, why are they not in court? Two, if they are sincere about it, why did they file nolle prosequi in the matters involving members of their party?
Why are you also not going to court if you feel they are not going by the rules or by the law? Very briefly, so I let you.
If you go to court, you must have a cause of action, right?
Yes.
This is not a personal matter to which you can go to court. However, we also have a right to hold them to account and draw their attention to the impropriety of certain steps that they are taking. Okay? I believe that the persons who are directly involved and constantly mentioned during such press conferences have a right to explore legal action.
All right.
Okay? But as a group, nothing stops us from commenting on the propriety so far of the conduct of the Attorney General.
All right.
When we think that his office is gradually being reduced into a propaganda office, which is also being continued, unfortunately, by the president.
All right. Mr. Balfour, we'll have to leave it here for sake of time. Thank you so much for joining us on News Desk. And you're still watching Joy News Desk. We'll be back with business.
Hi, welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Public-private partnerships, PPPs, and sustainable construction practices are now key considerations for infrastructure development in emerging markets like Ghana. This shift, driven by global sustainability goals, is highlighted in a new infrastructure advisory report by accounting and professional services firm KPMG. Partnered KPMG Ghana, Evans Asari, shared insights with Joy Business following the report's launch.
Privatizations could sometimes be a bit tricky when you mention it in any government circles, but we see private sector participation in infrastructure delivery as key to meeting our deficit, because government funds cannot do infra alone. So we need private sector investment. So that is one of the thematic areas that is coming out of these mega trends. Okay. Then the second one is sustainability. We are talking about ESG, okay, environmental, social, and governance issues. And we see that in delivering infrastructure, we need to be environmentally friendly, to be sustainable in the way we are delivering it. So that also came out clearly, that how do we deliver infrastructure, but in a sustainable manner, okay. Another theme that came out clearly, okay, is issues around pipeline delivery, okay, project preparation and project development. Do we have a solid pipeline as a country in terms of infrastructural projects? How well are they prepared, and are they bankable? Those are questions that we need to ask ourselves. So the top three, in my view: privatization, okay, sustainability, and of course, how do we prepare the pipeline of infrastructural projects and make them bankable?
The former Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Suleiman Akoni, is calling for a lowering of barriers to entry for investors in the country's mining sector. He says creating a more flexible environment and reducing taxes, especially in exploration, will help attract new investments and sustain growth in the industry. Mr. Akoni made the appeal whilst addressing participants at Day 2 of the Mining and Minerals Conference in Accra.
The difference, though, and I think I want to add a little rider to that. Yeah. Of course, I was there when we did the analysis. It is not the whole of the 100, but that portion which goes into actual exploration. Correct. So you may come with 100, probably a 20 will go into admin, so on and so forth. But what we are talking about is the segment of that capital which goes into exploration. About 20% of that goes into taxes. So even from the get-go, you are disadvantaged. And the view is that because it is so capital intensive and risky, we should lower the barrier for entry, reduce the taxes, allow investors to come in. And here when we are talking about investors, it's not white-faced investors, but across the board. In fact, the largest tenements of exploration are held by Ghanaians. But because of these challenges, they are not able to actually do the requisite exploration. And unfortunately, you go into the field, what you have is exploration tenements, and yes, they are mining.
All right, and that's it for Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching. Back to you, Mamisi. How are you spending the weekend?
The Habitat Fair is coming up, and I'm going. It's at Good Park.
Wow.
We need to go find out how to build our own homes.
I probably might join you at the Good Park.
You should.
All right,
Darryl, thank you for Business. And just before we go, news coming in. Indigents of Boko living in the Ashanti region have signed a peace pact to prevent the deadly Kusasi-Mamprisi conflict from spilling over into Kumasi. And the mediation, we understand, was by the Ashanti Regional Security Council. Also, the Eastern South Regional Police Command has released Alhaji Sofo Azoka on bail after his arrest in Tamale on Wednesday, and a caution statement has been obtained from him, and he's to report to the Eastern South Regional Police Command on September 16 to be arraigned. We'll bring you details of these stories in subsequent bulletins. Thanks for joining us on News Desk.